Hello everyone, welcome to Charlie's Perfect Math Class, Mappool Philosophy video. I've been requested to make a video going through the philosophy of the Mappool structure in Charlie's Perfect Math Class. I'll be going through basically all of it, so qualifiers and bracket pools, and just the general philosophy behind it. This is going to be like a one-take ramble style video, and it's going to go through some fairly advanced OSU terminology. So if you're new to the game, don't be surprised if you don't understand half of what I'm saying. That's kind of the point. This is meant for the nerdy audience who are interested in the nerdy stuff. I might make some kind of video similar to this about like how OSU tournaments work in general. Actually, I'll leave a link in the description of this. There's a video by Willie that does exactly that. The tournament format of Charlie's Perfect Math Class is different from most OSU tournaments, so you might not get an understanding of this, but you'll get an understanding of those tournaments in general from that video. So I'll link it in the description if you're interested in that. Now, this is for the nerdy audience. I'm going to be going through Mappool philosophy. I was requested to make this, and I have wanted to make this anyway, so thought I might as well. But yeah, thanks to Current for sponsoring the tournament. They aren't sponsoring this video directly, but they are sponsoring the tournament. They did make this happen, so go check them out. But yeah, that's that. Let's get started. So I'm going to be using Drench Program as a reference since not much has changed regarding the pooling philosophy from last time. We have like some format differences, like we're using best of 9 this time, and the band system has been slightly tweaked, but for the vast majority, it's still the same. So let's start off with qualifiers. So let's look at the qualifier map pool. So this is it. For those familiar with qualifier map pools, this isn't exactly anything special. If you understand, basic map pool theory and qualifier map pools, should be fairly self-explanatory. It is, I guess, smaller than qualifiers usually are, but that's just because the map pools themselves in the bracket are also smaller, which we will get into why that is. So that's the reason why this is smaller as well. What makes the qualifiers interesting, however, is the seeding system, which I have here. The seeding system is like a point system. You can read the document, go through the Wikipedia article. Basically, the reason we're doing this is because I thought that qualifier seeding methods that were in use previously were maybe not inaccurate, but not optimal, I should say. There were still some kinks that had to be figured out, and that's what I did here. The way I went about it was I collected a bunch of data from tournaments. So we took 10 tournaments with Leo. Leo was helping me with this. So we took 10 tournaments, and then we compared the qualifier seedings to the tournament results. So basically, the more accurately the qualifiers predicted the tournament results, the better the qualifier system was, and then we gave like points based on that. And then we simulated like how much better or worse a different seeding method would have performed instead. And we ran a bunch of simulations. We ran like 15 different methods, and the method that I had theorized beforehand that I thought would be better ended up being better, which is this. It's a modified version of it, so we did modify it to from the problems we saw, and it ended up being what you see here. So what it takes is your the rank you got on a map, and then it essentially divides your placing. So let's say first place gets 1 point, and second place would get half a point, third place would get 1/3 of a point, and so on. And then we modified that to make it less less exponential, so that the curve is less steep. So that's what this is, and it depends on Mappool size. We noticed that Mappool size had a correlation, which made sense because it's based on map rank. So the Mappool size would be indicative of the score. And basically, what this results in is that specialty players. That the biggest thing that this results in is that specialty players won't get punished for the things they're bad at. So what this system was praised for a lot, or well, I don't know about a lot because not that many people discussed it, but one of the things that was noticed is that those who had very volatile results, so those who did really good on some maps and really bad on others, who would normally just get shafted in qualifiers, got higher placings. So, and those who did moderately well on everything didn't do as well, because that's how actual tournaments work, because you want to beat your opponents directly. You don't want to just on average perform better on all the maps. You want to beat them on more maps, if you get what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter if you beat someone by 1,000 points or 100,000 points. 1 point, you still beat them on that map. You still got that 1 point. So what matters is winning in the maps themselves, not necessarily your average score, which is what most qualifier systems do. This alleviated that and more accurately simulated an actual match. So that's how we got this. It's still pretty close to regular total score, so it's not like total score is a bad system by any means. But yeah, I guess it's time to get into bracket pools. So let's start with there's a lot to go over here. Let's start with starters and counter picks. Why do we divide in starters and counter picks instead of just having a pool and a tiebreaker? So one of the issues that I have with the traditional picking system for OSU, so picking in turns, is that first pick gets a very, well, not a very large, but first pick gets an advantage, a very clear advantage. And that advantage is always having picked more maps than your opponent. So for example, let's say you get first pick, and the match ends in a score of 5-2. Let's imagine it was a best of 9. If you were first pick and the score was 5-2, that means it was a best of 9 and the score ended 5-2. There were 7 maps played total, and you, the first pick who won, picked 4 of those maps, and your opponent only picked 3. So there is an argument to be made that if the losing player had first pick there instead, they would have actually had a better chance of winning, because at the end of the match, the winning player wouldn't have picked more maps, because the losing player could have made a comeback if the picking order was the other way, theoretically, right? maybe they just had like bad picks, right? So they had in 7 maps they had 3 picks, and they won. Let's say they won 2 of those, so they only lost one of their own picks, and then they lost 5-2, right? That's kind of weird, I think. Only losing one of your picks and the match ends 5-2, that's pretty harsh. So this alleviates, or rather not just alleviates, but completely destroys that problem. Having starters and counter picks eliminates that problem altogether. That problem doesn't exist anymore. Because under this system, the first map is essentially the tiebreaker. Players get rid of maps one by one. So you do the roll, and then let's say what you do is you strike. So you strike until you have 1 map left. So let's say player 1 strikes S1. They don't want to play 2004 Breakup. Player 2 strikes 4 and 5. They don't want to play either of these. They don't like playing Nomad or DT. And then player 1 decides to strike Nanodeath, and they end up on Asphodelis. Right? That ends up being like the most balanced map for the 2 players. Neither of them picked that map. Right? So these 5 maps are essentially supposed to emulate a tiebreaker together. That's what it does. And then from then on, after the first map is played, the loser picks. So what loser picks does is that it eliminates any chance for the winner to have picked more maps. Because let's say the map ends in a 5-0. That means there was the starter picked, which was neither player's pick, and then the loser picked 4 maps, and they still lost 5-0. That's like very convincing that the winning player was better. Right? But if they had picked in turns, it's not as convincing because the losing player could have had a better chance in some maps, right? But this system completely eliminates that problem because there is no pick advantage. The loser always picks, and it eliminates the problem, which is the logic behind this. And it's why many other games use this kind of system. Like fighting games, namely Smash, uses this system for stage picking because it makes sure that any kind of issue like that doesn't happen. If they picked in turns, it would be massive to get first pick. So yeah, that's the logic behind this system. Starters and counter picks. So let's move on to the size, I guess. Why 11 maps? So Drench program was best of 7, which is really low for Osu, if you think about it. Most Osu tournaments in like top level, like grand finals, like all that, that's usually like best of 13 grand finals. I think is the most common for like a standard, and that's like pretty much double of best of 7. So why is it so small? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First is that Osu tournament matches take way too long. Right? This is like a viewer thing. If you want to have a 1 weekend tournament, which Drench program and now Charlie's Perfect Math class had to be, right? Charlie doesn't want to run an 8-weekend tournament. That's too hard for the non-Osu player viewer to follow, and Charlie doesn't want to stream like 8 weekends in a row with Osu tournament matches. Like that's just, it's unreasonable for someone who isn't invested in Osu tournaments to do. So that's one reason. The second reason is time zone. So Osu is like so in Osu, because of time zones, you can only have certain times of the day that are suitable for like everyone. and those are pretty much like 14 UTC and like maybe 21 UTC, and like for starting times. That range. That's when everyone can be awake at the same time. Everyone from East Asia, Europe, and the Americas can be awake at the same time, reasonably. And obviously, that time doesn't last very long. Already at like 17 UTC, it's like what, 2 a.m. in Japan. Like you can't reasonably expect someone in Japan to be playing at 2 a.m. Like that's too late for like a Sunday if they have work on Monday. That's you can't expect someone from Japan to be playing at that time. Not even counting like Australia, where the time zones are even more extreme. You know, and like the U.S. West Coast and like Hawaii or something. Right? It's too much. So you have to have those specific times. And if OSU tournament matches take like 1.5 hours, right, which they often do if it's like a best of 13, you don't have time for a one weekend tournament. Like it's not possible. It straight up isn't. And that's why we had to go at best of 7. I did change that to best of 9 because I realized that if we start half the players in losers bracket through the group stage, and then I looked at like the match times, it was possible to get best of 9 for Charlie's Perfect Math Pass, which I did, but we hadn't experimented that before, so I went with the safe route and went best of 7 program. So it's a time constraint, and that's why the best ofs have to be so small, and of course that's why the pool is smaller as well. As for why only 11 maps, because most tournament pools are like 20, so if you went from like a best of 11 to best of 7, 20 maps, you would still expect like maybe 15 maps per pool. So why 11? Why is it so small? And that's the format. So this is a format I've been running that I call non-consistent format, is when you don't have a set map pool template and instead you just put maps depending on what the other maps are. So for example, you can see that we have compared to here, yeah, compared, let's compare map pool 1 to map pool 3. Map pool 3 only has 1 force mod, while map pool 1 has 2, right? This wasn't communicated beforehand. In normal OSU tournaments, you have a set amount of each mod every time, and you have like a template that's followed. That's why you can have like memes about, haha, this is the no mod 1, and everyone knows what a no mod 1 looks like, or it's supposed to look like, and you have these sort of you have like stereotypes built around certain map pool slots because that template is so standard, it's so textbook, right? It's a very textbook template, and breaking that template and sort of merging skill sets together and then filling the pool depending on the other maps in the pool is actually really good. And the reason why that is because in a map pool, how do I phrase it? The reason why that is one, variety. Is that the reason why people don't like a lot of like custom pools is because an often cited reason has been like they feel manufactured, right? This is industrial. This is like so textbook that every pool is the same. Like you can know what to expect. Like the No Mod 2 will be this kind of stream map. Like you could pretty much just 1-to-1 guarantee like you know the difficulty it's going to be, and you know what kind of map it's going to be. You can like imagine in your head what that map is going to be like, and that obviously hurts variety. No one likes playing a tournament like that, right? That's why you got a little spice, and combining skill sets is the best way to do that, because you can do that in a number of different ways. And of course, that will work out because combining skill sets still test the same thing. But of course, the argument to that is, what if you have a person who's really good at one thing, they absolutely suck at the other thing, at another thing, and those skill sets just happen to be merged together? That player is going to feel cheated, right? That's not fair for that one player who's good at one thing, right? That sucks if you're that player. That you happen to merge the skill set they're really good at and the one they're really bad at, and now they can't pick this map that they were supposed to be good at. Well, one way to solve that is by having multiple pools. So let's take where is it? Wait, where is it? Am I blind? Oh, I just had it. Okay. So, okay, I was going to use vanity clock in an example. I forgot it was hidden. My bad. I'll try to get another example. What's a good example that I can use? What's a good... What's it easy? You can tell this is a ramble and not something I scripted. Okay, let's use confusion part 1. So confusion part 1 is just a straight up A map. So why would we have like a no mod 1 in Hard Rock? Because that's essentially what this is. So why would we have this map here? This is not usually what a Hard Rock 1 is. Like, it's like this could serve as a Hard Rock 1, but most people wouldn't like its similarity to like how Amy it is. That's because we don't have a normal no mod 1 in this pool at all, right? Like, that's because we merged the skill sets of no mod 1 and Hard Rock for this specific pool. Now, someone who absolutely sucks at AR10, let's say they just hate AR10, they can't read it. This pool would suck for them if they are like a no mod 1 player, right? They are one of those no mod only nerds, right? Sure, they might do fine on Sacred Bones, right, or Kegara and Nakibara Juji, but they would be annoyed. That Confusion Part 1, the map that they would supposedly be good at, is Hard Rock. They wouldn't like this pool because of it. They would complain about that if this was the only pool. But they don't have to play in this pool, they can ban it. They can instead go for Mappool 1, which has high score, which would be more in line with what they're good at, if they're good at this no mod 1 jump map. The same thing as with Mappool 3. Minor Sonic's Wizard Tower, definitely not a normal jump map. And yet this is the sort of stereotypical no mod 1. And it's a completely valid concern if this was the only pool, right? But it's not the only pool. If you're uncomfortable with this map specifically, if you want your no mod 1s, you can ban this map. You can ban this pool, and then you can end up with either Confusion Part 1 or High Score. You're going to have to make some sacrifices, of course, right? That's like what all of these maps intend to do. But that's the point. The point is that you can, if there's a combination of maps you don't like in a pool, or like a combination of skill sets in a map that you don't like in a pool, you can ban that pool and hope to get another one that more accurately reflects what you're good at. Because theoretically, all these pools are intended to be just as balanced, right? Pools 1, 2, and 3, they're intended to be just as balanced in terms of skill sets. But to a player who specializes in certain things, they might not be. So they want the best pool for them, which is what the 3-pool banning system is for. So that's the main logic behind the system, is that you can have variety plus like not have to worry about skill sets colluding within a map. And of course, having 3 pools on top of that is more variety. For a 1-weekend tournament, if you're going to have an entire bracket, that's a lot of matches for 1 pool. Even if it was like a single pool that was, let's say, 15 maps, that would feel very repetitive for a 1-weekend tournament. So that's another reason why having 3 pools is good, because it changes around what's on screen, which is good for viewership. The players might not inherently like that, having like, they might prefer in a way to have like one slightly larger pool because it's more consistent. But this is great for viewers, and it is great for players in another way, which is that they get the variety. It also gives map poolers just better options. You can put maps in that you would otherwise not be able to put in, right? Like, the idea of putting Magic Girl DT Hard Rock in a pool is insane, but when you consider the context of all the 3 pools, it makes a lot more sense. Right? Same with a map like Skynet. Skynet, this map is nuts. Like, actually not intended, I totally didn't realize. But this map is stupid, right? This map normally wouldn't be in a map pool, but it works because of the context it's in, right? Like, the only other quote-unquote tech map in this pool would be Tono Genso Monogatari, which isn't, it's more of a aim, speed, stamina kind of with some weird tech elements. It's a weird map, right? So you want to have, like, if you want that more slider stuff, you would need a map like Skynet. But you obviously you wouldn't have this problem to begin with in a normal pool, right? If you had a normal pool, you wouldn't end up picking a map like Tono Genso Monogatari in the first place. Well, you could, but like in a textbook pool, you wouldn't. And you would never have opportunity for a map like Skynet, which I think is a really cool map. So you have more options for maps, like, as a whole, which is really cool for pools. Because there's a lot of, like, kinds of maps that just never end up in map pools because they're just, like, too weird. But in a system like this, where you can combine skill sets, you can have those weird maps. Right? It's possible. Because you can combine those skill sets and not have to worry about the aforementioned factors. So that's what makes this system so cool. And of course, if you even go further, now with Charlie's Perfect Math class, which I can't leak anything. I mean, I can. If anyone can, it would be me, but I won't. The custom maps that we have, I really hope that it's going to feel refreshing for a lot of people who've played, like, custom map tournaments and everything's feel, like, really industrial and sane. That they're going to see, like, these really wacky maps. Obviously, not everything's going to be wacky, and it's still a good pool, trust me. Okay, it's still going to be good and, balanced and all that. But there's going to be some fun, wacky maps in there that are also going to be balanced because of this format. The format allows it. So that's why I do this thing. So, I hope that's everything I wanted to cover. This video is like 30 minutes long now. I definitely repeated a lot of stuff, but I hope this covers, like, at least the basics. I'm not going to explain, like, why every pick exists. I hope it's, like, at least somewhat self-explanatory for someone who's, like, familiar with map pools, which I imagine most people watching this video and actually, like, hoping to understand stuff is. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything regarding the tournament, you can at me on Twitter or on Charlie Fumo. You can send me a message on Discord. All my info is on the contact page right here. And then, of course, you can go to Charlie Fumo as well. Or just YouTube comments. This is going to be on YouTube. So if you have any questions about the tournament, just contact me. Go ahead and ask. If a question gets asked frequently, I'll put it here. But yeah, that would be it. Thanks for listening to me ramble for 30 minutes about pools. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was easy enough to follow, because this was a one-take thing. And yeah, that would be it. Thanks for watching.